It never ceases to amaze me, just how much things are changing around us. Like
Mm.
even something as basic as getting stuff like, from point A to point B, it's a whole different ball game these days. And
Mm.
for folks like you, always on top of things, wanting to grasp the key stuff without the fluff, well, keeping up with these shifts it's essential, really.
You hit the nail on the head there, and that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. Uber's, well, it was a pretty huge move, a $2.25 billion acquisition of Transplace.
Yeah.
This is, it's got big implications for the whole logistics world.
Yeah, Uber. Everyone knows Uber, right? Ride sharing is like a household name at this
Hmm.
point.
Yeah.
But Transplace, I bet a lot of people might be scratching their heads on that one.
Right, right. They're not exactly a flashy consumer brand. They're more in the nuts and bolts of things, you know. They specialize in something called transportation management systems, TMS for short. Think of it like the brains behind how businesses manage their entire supply chain.
Okay, so like the software, the systems that help companies figure out how to move their stuff in the most efficient way possible.
Exactly. Transplace's technology, it's what gives companies the power to optimize everything. And I mean everything. The routes their shipments take, managing costs, you name it, all making their logistics operations smoother, leaner, and a lot more effective. So today, what we really want to do is, well, we're going to dig into why Uber decided to shell out such a hefty sum for Transplace and, what it could mean for the future of freight and really the whole supply chain ecosystem. We'll be drawing on some pretty insightful stuff from a cognitive market research article that came out February 12th, 2025.
Sounds good to me. So Uber and Transplace. Let's start with the why. Why did Uber see this as such a crucial move for them?
Well, the main reason boils down to, well, ambition, really. Uber has this strategic goal of becoming a major play in the logistics and freight world. And while they already had Uber Freight up and running, bringing Transplace into the fold gave them an immediate and a pretty substantial boost in terms of their capabilities.
So it wasn't just about adding more trucks to Uber's network. It was more about, like you said, the tech, the brains that Transplace brings to the table.
Exactly. That transportation management system we talked about, that's the heart of it. It's a whole set of tools that gives shippers, the businesses that need to move their products, it gives them real control over their supply chains. We're talking about optimizing routes on the fly, managing costs tightly, and just being way more efficient overall.
So Uber's thinking was bigger than just connecting folks who need to ship things with trucks that are available. It was about giving those shippers the power to manage the entire process from start to finish using some pretty sophisticated tech.
Yeah, you got it. By integrating Transplace's technology, Uber wants to be more than just a middleman. They want to be the go-to partner for both the companies shipping goods and the carriers moving them. It's about having a solution that tackles the complexities of modern logistics and does it in a way that benefits everyone involved.
That makes sense. Now, before this whole deal, Uber Freight was doing its thing, but it was a bit more, I don't know, niche, more focused.
You could say that. Initially, Uber Freight, they were mainly a digital freight brokerage, kind of like a high-tech marketplace, connecting shippers who need to move cargo with trucking companies that have the capacity to do it. The main focus was on making that initial match, finding the right truck for the right shipment.
Right. So like the classic Uber model, but for trucking instead of people. But with Transplace in the picture now, it's a whole different ballgame.
Absolutely. Now they can offer what we call full-scale transportation management. They're not just making introductions anymore, they're providing the actual infrastructure, the software, the systems that allow shippers to manage every single step of their logistics, from planning all the way through to analysis and reporting.
So for a company that needs to ship stuff regularly, this means they get much more control over their supply chain. And they can see what's happening in real time through Uber's platform.
Exactly. They get access to these really powerful tools, tools to plan shipments more accurately, to track their goods in real time as they're being transported, and maybe most importantly, to analyze all their past logistics data. Find bottlenecks, figure out ways to get even more efficient, and, of course, cut costs. It's a big step up from just arranging for a truck to pick up a load.
And this move puts Uber right in the ring with some of the big names in logistics, doesn't it? You mentioned C.H. Robinson, XPO Logistics, those guys.
Oh, absolutely. Those are the heavy hitters, the big 3PL providers. They've been around forever. They've got the experience, the networks, the whole nine yards. By acquiring Transplace, Uber Freight's sending a clear message. They want to compete head-to-head with these giants and maybe even offer a more tech-focused, digitally native approach to managing logistics.
And it seems like this move also ties into, well, all the chaos we've seen in global supply chains lately, especially after the pandemic.
Yeah, no doubt. The COVID-19 pandemic, it was a real wake-up call. It showed just how fragile these complex global supply chains can be. Businesses were hit with disruptions like we've never seen, and it really made everyone realize how important it is to have resilient logistics management and to have systems that can adapt, when things get crazy.
Empty shelves,
Yep.
delays, it was a mess. So how did Transplace's technology help with those kinds of problems?
Well, Transplace had a whole suite of solutions geared toward boosting efficiency, cutting down on delays, and giving companies that all-important real-time visibility. Knowing where your stuff is at any given moment and spotting potential problems before they blow up. These capabilities became super valuable when businesses were scrambling to deal with all the disruptions. So, by bringing Transplace on board, Uber Freight can now offer tools that not only help companies react to problems, but also help them build more agile, more responsive supply chains for the future.
So it wasn't just about putting out fires. It was about equipping businesses to be more prepared, more resilient in the long run.
Exactly. And if we step back and look at the bigger picture, another huge factor driving this acquisition was, well, it's the elephant in the room, the massive growth of
Oh
e-commerce.
yeah, that's unavoidable. It seems like everything's moving online, including how we shop. So how does that explosion of online buying impact the world of freight and logistics?
It's simple, really. More online shopping means a massive increase in demand for fast and reliable freight solutions. Retailers, manufacturers, they're all under pressure to get their products to consumers faster and cheaper than ever. Uber saw this coming. They realized that there was this growing need for digital logistics services that could optimize those increasingly complex shipping routes, keep costs down, and make sure deliveries are reliable.
And Transplace already had the solutions and the network in place to meet those specific e-commerce demands.
Yeah, they were already ahead of the curve in that sense. So acquiring Transplace gave Uber Freight immediate access to scalable logistics solutions, the kind that can handle the unique challenges of e-commerce. I'm talking about managing huge volumes of individual shipments, dealing with the constant demand for speed and flexible delivery options, that kind of thing.
Uber definitely did their homework before making this deal. Was market research a big part of their decision-making process?
Oh, absolutely. Market research was critical. That cognitive market research article we talked about, it highlights several key trends in the logistics industry that, well, they probably played a big role in Uber's thinking.
What were some of the most important trends that the research highlighted? What kind of insights did it give into where the logistics industry was headed?
One really significant trend was the strong growth of digital freight solutions. The logistics industry, it was already moving towards digital transformation, adopting AI-powered cloud-based technologies to make their operations more efficient. And the market analysis back then, it was pretty clear that both digital freight brokerage platforms and those sophisticated transportation management systems, they were on the rise. And that growth was being driven by, well, the increasing power of automation and the ability to use real-time data analytics.
So Uber saw the writing on the wall. The future of freight management was going to be digital, and acquiring Transplace was a way to jump right to the front of the pack.
Exactly. And by getting their hands on a company with such an established and advanced TMS platform like Transplace, Uber could basically skip ahead in that digital transformation race. They could offer a level of sophistication and functionality that would have taken them ages to build on their own.
What other key insights did the market research uncover? Were there other major trends influencing the industry that played a role in this acquisition?
Another big one highlighted in the research was the growing emphasis on supply chain resilience. All those global disruptions we discussed, they really drove home the point that businesses need to have logistics networks that can roll with the punches. They were looking for solutions that could make their operations more efficient, cut down on transit times, and give them much better visibility across their entire supply chain.
And Transplace was already offering those kinds of resilience-boosting capabilities.
Yeah, they were already there. Integrating Transplace's tech into Uber Freight gave shippers access to some really valuable stuff. I'm talking data-driven insights, intelligent routing algorithms that could adapt to changing conditions, and tools designed to find cost-saving opportunities that directly address the need for resilience and ongoing efficiency that businesses were clamoring for.
It sounds like a very competitive market, though. Not just those established players, but some of the big tech companies are starting to muscle their way into logistics.
It's a fierce battleground out there. The research pointed out the intense competition, not only from those traditional third-party logistics providers with their deep roots and relationships, but also from the tech giants like Amazon, FedEx, even C.H. Robinson themselves. They were investing heavily in digital logistics. So for Uber, acquiring Transplace was a way to offer a more complete, more technologically advanced package of services. It let them stand out in a crowded field.
So it wasn't just about connecting shippers and carriers anymore. It was about offering that comprehensive end-to-end service that businesses were demanding for managing their complex logistics needs.
That's it. The research showed a clear demand for these integrated logistics solutions, where companies want a single platform that can handle everything from finding the right trucks to managing the entire shipment process from start to finish. Uber used that market research to identify Transplace as, well, as the key piece to solving that puzzle.
All right, so the acquisition is done. What did Uber do next? How did they actually start incorporating Transplace's capabilities into their existing Uber Freight platform?
Well, the priority was making sure that Transplace's technology was smoothly and seamlessly integrated with Uber Freight's existing digital infrastructure. I mean, that was absolutely crucial to making the acquisition work and achieving the results they were hoping for.
What did that integration look like for the people actually using Uber Freight? What kind of changes did they see?
In practical terms, Uber Freight started using Transplace's advanced TMS to make its logistics operations way more efficient. The combined platform gave shippers the ability to automate and optimize their route planning in a much more sophisticated way. They could choose carriers based on more than just price, things like reliability and past performance, and they had that real-time visibility and tracking of their shipments, which is, it's gold in the logistics world. This level of integration meant Uber could handle much larger companies with more complex logistics needs.
So it wasn't just about getting the two software systems to talk to each other. It was also about giving Uber Freight a wider range of services to offer its customers.
Exactly. Transplace brought its network of shippers and carriers so Uber Freight could offer more than just digital freight brokerage. They added new solutions, things like freight procurement, helping shippers find the best rates, contract management tools, and even support for multimodal transportation. That means, being able to plan shipments that might use trucks, trains, ships, all in the most efficient and cost-effective way possible. It was the full service package that the market research had identified as a growing need.
We talked about artificial intelligence earlier.
Mhm.
How did AI fit into all of this?
AI was key. Uber Freight started using sophisticated artificial intelligence and machine learning to optimize routes, making adjustments based on real-time conditions and predicting potential disruptions like traffic jams or capacity shortages. And by adding Transplace's data analytics capabilities, they could offer shippers much more accurate demand forecasting, which helps businesses reduce inventory costs and make their deliveries more reliable.
So far, it sounds like a pretty rosy picture for Uber and its customers. But were there any challenges, any risks that came with such a big acquisition in such a complex industry?
Of course. While the potential benefits were huge, there were definitely some big challenges for Uber in integrating Transplace and navigating the complexities of the logistics world.
What were some of those hurdles? What kind of things could have gone wrong?
Well, the competition from those established logistics firms, the ones we talked about earlier, that was a major factor. They've got decades of experience, huge networks, and deep knowledge of the industry. Uber, while being very tech-savvy, was still relatively new to providing the full range of logistics services.
So how did Uber try to overcome that lack of experience and compete with those established companies? What was their strategy?
Their main strategy was to focus on their technology. They emphasized the potential for greater efficiency, cost savings through optimization, and their user-friendly digital platform. They saw those as their key advantages over the more traditional players.
And what about regulations? The freight transportation industry is heavily regulated with all sorts of rules and safety standards. How did that play into Uber's expansion?
That's a really important point. As Uber grew its logistics operations with the Transplace acquisition, they had to deal with a whole web of regulations related to freight transportation and safety. Ensuring they were compliant with all those rules while rapidly scaling up their services was a major challenge.
Just merging two large companies with their own ways of doing things must have been tricky too.
Yeah, operationally, it was a huge undertaking. Combining Transplace's well-established logistics network with Uber Freight's digital platform was no easy feat. They had to make sure existing customers from both companies experienced no interruptions in service, that the platform remained stable and reliable throughout the integration process, and that new customers were smoothly onboarded. Those were all critical areas that required a lot of attention and careful management.
Looking ahead, what does this Transplace acquisition tell us about the future of Uber Freight and its place in the logistics industry?
The Transplace acquisition, it's a real turning point for Uber's ambitions in logistics. It shows they're serious about becoming a major player, not just in ride-sharing, but in moving goods around the world.
What kind of growth and expansion can we expect to see from Uber Freight in the next few years because of this move?
Well, I think we can expect to see Uber Freight trying to expand beyond North America to become a global player. They can leverage Transplace's international expertise and their connections in overseas markets to break into new regions.
And the technology will keep evolving, changing what they can offer.
Definitely. More innovation in AI and automation is on the horizon. Uber has said they plan to enhance their platform with even more advanced AI-driven optimization, making freight movement more efficient and giving shippers even more powerful predictive analytics to manage their supply chains.
And this move could also strengthen the ties between the e-commerce world and the freight logistics industry.
That's a key area to watch. With online shopping continuing to grow, you can expect Uber Freight to strengthen its partnerships with big retailers and manufacturers, creating even more streamlined and optimized logistics operations tailored to the demands of e-commerce.
So this wasn't just a random business deal. It was a calculated move by Uber to become a force to be reckoned with in the world of freight and supply chain management.
Exactly. Uber's acquisition of Transplace was a big investment, and it transformed Uber Freight into a comprehensive logistics solutions provider. By integrating Transplace's technology, their network, and their expertise, Uber has significantly upgraded its capabilities and is in a great position to offer a wider range of services to businesses of all sizes.
But like you said, there are still challenges ahead. The competition is tough, and making everything run smoothly is going to be crucial.
That's right. The potential is huge, but Uber needs to navigate that competitive landscape and make sure the integration goes off without a hitch. That said, this strategic investment shows that Uber is committed to changing the game in freight technology and making global supply chains more efficient for years to come.
This deep dive into Uber's acquisition of Transplace has been really insightful.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see how technology is changing how things move around the world, even at such a fundamental level.
Yeah.
It gives us a lot to think about regarding the future of logistics.
It does, and seeing how technology and the complex world of logistics are coming together like this, it really makes you wonder what other unexpected partnerships or acquisitions are we going to see in the future that could completely revolutionize how goods are transported across the globe. It's a dynamic and evolving landscape, that's for sure, and it's going to be fascinating to watch it unfold.